What's up?
What would I do without you? What would I do without you? Come on. What would I do without
you? Okay, so you're graduating is the worst, but we're here to celebrate you because we love you. So, I just wanted to bring light to the ways that Hannah interacts with those around her in the world. It's kind of funny to impersonate you because you're basically impersonating me. Like, you got that. I just had 2 tears. Only 2. Classic Hannah. Or, wait! Everyone stop! And you tell us something about something wonderful. Or, that reminds me of the Rocky scene. ... Which one? I don't know. I've never seen that. Or what about Bob references every which way? So those are my Hannah references. And one word to describe you is best. Because if I pick anything else, I'll start weeping, and you know my list for you and words to describe you will be faithful and gracious, patient, sweet, energetic, passionate, talented, wonderful, and someone that I love so dearly. As well as far as a funny story about you, or us, I think we gotta go with the classic. Picture this. First night back, fall 2017. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and Gracie was in her room, standing on a chair hanging Christmas lights up, and got a little dizzy, and so fell onto her sink, and the sink broke off the wall, and water started spraying everywhere. So she stops and goes, "Ah! Do I have to call someone?" I think I have to call someone. So I just casually walked down the hallway and knocked on your door and poked my head in, and Hannah sleepily popped her head up and I said, "You're worst. This is her first night as an RA. Just keep that in mind. Your worst girl on the floor has a problem." And she's like, "What? What is going on?" I'm like, "I broke my sink off the wall." And she's like, "Off the wall?" And at this point, Jordan and Madison come in, and they're like, "What is going on?" And so we all like walk down there, and she's like, it was like a mix of tears and laughter, and also like concern for me because I like fell on my sink. But then the 2 of them, Madison and Jordan, left, and Hannah calls facilities, and we sit there for like 45 minutes because it's 1 o'clock in the morning on like a Sunday night. And so this wonderful man comes back from church, and comes and like fixes our sink. And I just specifically remember sitting on, we moved places. We were on my bed for a little bit, and we were on my floor. So I think we were on my floor first, and I was just weeping. I was like, "This is the worst." And I think at one point you were like, "We'll probably laugh about this in like a year." And like 20 minutes later, we were laughing about it because the next custodial guy comes in, and he like looks at the ground because the sink is on the ground. You know, the water had stopped spraying at this point. And he was like, "You really broke it off the wall." And we were like, yes I did. Thank you, hello. And his name was Alan, and we became dear friends because he like vacuumed up the water, and then we laughed about it, and we cried a little bit more. That's my own story.
That's so good.
I think one of my classic memories of something that you always said, especially in lead team, was, "Well, we're done with all the business, but now we have to get to talk about," and then insert. And one of your favorites was always, "How great God is." That's true. And I think one of the words I love to describe you the most is honest. Like, honest and real. You always encouraged honesty, and just for people to act like who they really were, and to speak who they really were, and to tell the reality of what was going on in their lives. And that you would do that as well for us as an example. I was asked to talk a little bit about how you have helped to grow our floor. And I think that that word is one that I really want to focus on in the growth of our floor. That and a heart for prayer. I've really seen you foster and encourage a heart for prayer, both on our floor through prayer meetings and in our Bro Sis with prayer and worship times. And also foster a community that's really there for each other, that supports and encourages each other. I think about when Bethany was on our floor and she had to leave, and just the encouragement you were to her and the encouragement you were to our floor to support and encourage her in that choice, and not to be like asking questions or like poking around, but like to be an encouragement and a support network for each other. But at the same time, a floor that wasn't afraid to tackle the hard problems and the things that were going on in life. You were always the person who, if you asked how are you doing, you actually meant it. That you actually wanted to hear how you were doing. And I think in modeling that for our floor, it also became a model that people began to replicate on our floor, and that I saw grow. People would ask each other and actually care about each other more and more on our floor. And that it fostered an ability of openness on our floor, that people could share what they were struggling with and also share what they were being encouraged with and what they were learning. I think specifically of like our testimony breakfasts that we had on the floor, how that fostered like an openness between the girls, and that they would share like the hard things that had been in their background, but also the amazing ways that God had worked through those. And you were so integral to bringing all of those things into Christ. So, thank you, Hannah.
Hannah Thompson, your time to graduate is here, and there's some Bach Patrol. Wait, what was the first question? Cut! My favorite Hannah Thompson impersonation is definitely, goodbye. Now that you're graduating, so I'm shedding real tears right now. Real tears that you're graduating. I'll miss you dearly in my heart. One word to describe Hannah Thompson. Gosh, there's so many. I would say above average. Definitely above average. You're something special, but I'm gonna miss you really. And gosh, one thing I really do appreciate about you, Hannah, is you have an incredible heart to listen and to hear. If there's anything that God has taught me through you in your life, it's that you have a caring heart that listens and that shows people that they're meaningful and they're important to you and that they matter. And that is something, if I can pattern that half as well in my life as you do in yours, I'd be a happy man. So.
Oh boy. Hannah, one thing I appreciate about you that I hear often is one thing my dad always says. My dad always tells me, one thing my dad always quotes in the Rocky movies. Okay, I don't want to do this. One word I would choose to describe you, Hannah, is selfless. Completely selfless. And so in love with the Lord and with His people. I remember the first time I met you at the floor meeting, you said, all I want to do is love the church, love the Lord and love the church. I have a big old crush on the bride of Christ, and I thought you were weird for that, but I have learned so much from you about what that means and what that looks like. You have the biggest heart, and you give endlessly, and you love the Lord, and you love people from that love. One thing that I have learned from you is how to trust, how to listen to the Lord, what it means to be repentant. One thing that has been with me throughout a lot of things this year is just remembering how, like, when we don't hear the Lord, it's because He's not threatened, and He gives us His word, and that's what we listen to. And I'm so grateful for how you have loved me and how you have mentored me and shown me so much grace and I am so grateful for someone who's not only been a mentor, but a sister and a best friend. And I love you with all of my heart.
I'm weeping. Okay. Hannah. Love you, sis. Okay, so one thing that I just so appreciate about your personality and like your mannerisms, and it actually came out last night, LOL, from maybe the day after the bonfire. It happened at the bonfire. You like took a step back from the whole group, like, oh guys, I just want to see you guys, and like, oh, I just love you so much. You know, you're just the sweetest, and I love you. And one word that I would choose to describe you would be intentional. I have never met a person, and I can say with confidence, I met a person that's as intentional as you are in any conversation, any interaction. I remember the first time I met you actually was at the Brosis outing way back in August. It was like 10 years ago. But we went to the beach super late at night. We were playing this game, like introductory, you know, do an adjective with your name and like, all this kind of stuff. And I was standing by you, like by the water, and like we started talking, and I was like, this girl is gonna be such an influence in my time at Moody, whether it be for a year or however long. Because when I talked to you, it was as if like I was the only person that was like mattering at that moment, which is super hard for most people to do, but I think you do that really well, and you rely on the Lord for literally everything, which is super encouraging to me. Like, it's really pushed me, even unspokenly so, just to further just reach out for God and trust Him in literally everything I do, for every conversation I have, to every prayer that I toss up or whatever it be. You've definitely encouraged me in that way. One thing, frick, I don't know. So many things. One thing I've learned from you, Hannah, is how to love people with everything that I have. Because you do that so well. I can only imagine, being a boy, what it's like to be on that floor and having you as an RA and be in such close proximity to you. But even still, like being on the Brosis, I've learned what it means to genuinely want to care for people and get to really know what they're doing and who they are and what they like and how the Lord's been working in them. And it's, you know, I came to Moody expecting to, you know, be around Bible-believing Christians and like we're gonna have these conversations or whatever, but like I can say with confidence you were the only person where it doesn't feel manufactured. Like it's not something that, you know, is thought of. It's just an overflow of like your study and your love for the Lord. That's really been a shining light in my time at Moody, because it does get really hard to be genuine in that sense, because, you know, we talk, we're like, community is so great and we're gonna have all these conversations, and it's like super manufactured, and so I think it's just really encouraging to see how God is using you to impact the lives of those, even when like you don't even think that you are. So that's what I learned about you. Love you so much. I'm gonna miss you so much. Oh my gosh. We'll hang out. It's fine. Live in the burbs. It's whatever. So, love you. Bye. Oh man. No more.
I'm not totally sure what I'm gonna say yet, to be honest, because I was talking to all of you. Hi Hannah, you're incredible. And I have so many great memories of you that I would love to try to impersonate, but my most common one, or the one that I've seen the most since I've gotten to know you, is probably you kind of like like this little weird thing. And I've never understood if you do it when you're afraid or if just there's an awkward situation. But I do always try to ask if you're okay whenever that happens, so you're welcome for that. Also, a word that would describe you. This one has been really hard for me to think of, which I came up with the question for it, so it goes back on me. But I would probably have to say accepting. When I think of you, I see you talk to so many different people who also have so many different just life stories, even when whatever mood they're in, whether they're happy, sad, upset. You never seem to come across as like you don't want to be around them or that you like want to get out of this conversation with them. You just talk to them and you love them for who they are. And I think in my life, I rarely find people who do that with everyone. And not to say I'm waiting for you to fail at that, but I have watched to see if you do kind of turn someone away, and you never have. And that has been an inspiration and encouragement to me in so many different ways. So thank you for that. And then I think a favorite memory / story that I have of you got a little personal. So when I came back at the beginning of the year from my internship, and I had missed so much of our RA training. We didn't even have our brosis time, I believe, or like we missed some of that because I wasn't there yet. And I just came right in. I was super delirious and just a wreck from the internship. Jet lag was hitting me really bad. And I remember while I was at the retreat, I was having like mental and emotional breakdowns. I wasn't telling anybody because that's just how I do things. And I had at one point like called my mom and was like, I was gonna drop out of Moody. I was gonna like quit just everything in my life, and only because I was just a wreck from everything. And then after that retreat, I came back to Moody and was still kind of set in doing some things, dramatic decisions of my life. And then I got to talk to you because we had some more brosis time finally. And I remember one of the first things you told me is that we kind of sat down together and you're like, can I just say something real quick? Kirk, I love America. And also I'm not a feminist. It was just like saying all this to me, which sounds weird. But when you did that, it made me feel so comfortable and that I could just say whatever I wanted. And I in turn just started sharing a bunch of random check facts with you from my internship. And just random things from my life, which kind of going back to acceptance, I guess I just felt so accepted and loved in those moments that I didn't feel judged by you for anything I was saying or doing, however weird or what kind of emotional vibe I was giving off. And that might sound like kind of a mess as I'm sharing this because it was a mess in my life for so much, but you impacted me in so many ways during those one-on-ones that we would meet, especially early on when I had so many doubts and questions whether I was doing a good job, whether I would even succeed in the future. But yet every time you would just meet with me, you would encourage me, you wouldn't criticize any doubts or feelings that I had. And I think looking back, while it may seem small, you had a massive impact on me, and me staying here and what I've done as an RA and also as a student. So thank you so much for that. You're not just the RA of your floor, but in some ways you've also been my RA in your own way, so thank you so much for that. But, answer. But,
Kirk's got it.
And cut.
So my Hannah impersonation is, can I read you something? So I was reading it this morning. Anyway, I feel like you've done that to me so many times in the best ways and at the best times. My one word to describe you is not actually one word, it's hyphenated, so I'll just use it anyway. And I would call you no nonsense Hannah, in that like you don't let people like live in sin, and you like don't let them live in lies. So you definitely like, call people out all the time, and but in a way that's super gracious and kind, and with a lot of wisdom that surely flows from a life cultivated with the Lord and just being poured out. And I think that's also probably why I've seen you whip out your Bible so many times, just speak truth from Scripture. And I was asked to share how you have been on the floor and what it is to live with Hannah Thompson. And so I think the best way to describe that would be through a story. I remember back in October, I was like going through a really rough time, and like the big question on my mind was, is God good? And if he's not good, then he's a liar, and if he's a liar, then you can't believe him. And there was this big mental downward spiral, and I remember we were ending lead team, and I just kind of lingered in your room a little bit, and you welcomed me to just stay and talk, and so I did, and you let me ramble for a while. And then you did what I just did, and you whipped out your Bible, and you apologized before you read Scripture, but you did, and it was one of those things that just like pierced to the heart of the matter. And I remember even you saying, "I don't think you're struggling with doubt as much as you think you are," and I was like, "Stop it! Like, let me live in what I'm doing." And but I'm so grateful that you did that, and I love, like, you definitely like are very discerning in that. you can tell really what the heart of the matter is and speak into that as opposed to the fluff that's being projected. And so, yeah, thanks, Hannah. I have loved having you as my RA.
That's perfect.